Chapter 428. When Alex saw this scene unfolding before him, he knew that only the two beautiful women could look at and appreciate one another. He felt that there was no hope for him anymore. Therefore, Alex went into the other room and changed into the shorts that he had brought with him today. Since Alex changed into his shorts relatively quickly, the two women had still not come out of their bedrooms after he came out of his room. He then headed out into the courtyard first before slowly entering the huge hot spring pool. Alex could not help but let out a huge sigh of relief as the warm water gradually covered his body. After a short while, he heard the sounds of footsteps approaching him. Emma and Mia had already changed into their swimsuits and were walking toward the yard at this time. Alex raised his head to look at both of them and his eyes lit up immediately. The swimsuit that Emma was wearing was slightly conservative, but it also outlined her perfect figure, her fair skin, and her long and slender legs. This made Alex's heart beat frantically. Moreover, Mia, who was seated next to her, was dressed in an even bolder manner. Even though Elaine had prevented and refused to allow Emma to wear a bikini, Mia was wearing a beautiful pink bikini at this time. This particular bikini only covered the important parts of her body, whereas the rest of her body was in clear view. Therefore, anyone could clearly see her beautiful and perfect figure. She was not inferior to Emma in terms of her body figure, and Mia was actually incredibly beautiful too. However, since she was dressed in a bikini which was even bolder and skimpier than Emma's swimsuit, she really outshone Emma this time. When Mia saw the surprised and overwhelmed expression on Alex's face, she could not help but smile to herself. After that, she threw a gentle loving look at Alex before flashing a shy but charming smile at him. When Alex saw her charming smile and the fiery look in Mia's eyes, he could feel his heart throbbing uncontrollably. However, he could only pretend not to notice it as he quickly withdrew his gaze out of fear that he would not be able to restrain himself. Moreover, he was also afraid that Emma would notice that something was amiss. Both the women continued walking toward the hot spring as they swayed their waists naturally, and they looked like models with their perfect figures and beautiful faces. In Alex's eyes, this was truly the most wonderful bikini and underwear show he had ever seen in his life. When both of them had finally reached the hot spring pool, they dipped their slender legs into the water before plunging into the water, one after the other. Since this was the first time Emma was wearing a swimsuit in front of her husband, she was also feeling a little shy and embarrassed. Therefore, she grabbed Mia's hand and they stayed about 2 to 3 meters away from Alex as they whispered amongst themselves, chatting about some topics that would only be relevant to girls. However, Mia's thoughts were clearly on Alex at this time. As she was chatting with Emma, she would secretly glance at Alex from the corner of her eyes from time to time. To prevent his wife from catching them in the act, Alex could only turn his back on them as he closed his eyes and rested in the hot spring. The two women continued chatting for a short while, but since the warm water in the hot spring made their body feel so relaxed, they could not help but feel sleepy at this time. Furthermore, Emma had been feeling exceptionally exhausted recently. She had been dealing with a lot of issues, and since her company had just been opened, she had been busy hustling, and it was only reasonable for her to feel so exhausted. Emma could not help but feel unprecedented tiredness as she was surrounded by the warm spring water, and shortly, she felt remarkably sleepy. 10 minutes later, Emma was already leaning against the hot spring pool with a towel against her face as she fell fast asleep. Alex had also closed his eyes to rest his mind at this time. However, he suddenly felt the water around him surging. When he opened his eyes slowly, he saw that Mia had already swam over to him, and her fair and tender body was already by his side. Alex opened his mouth to say something, but before he could speak, Mia stretched out her finger and placed it on his lips gently. After that, she said in a low voice, "Emma has already fallen asleep. Don't wake her up." Alex glanced at Emma to make sure that she was truly asleep. After that, he breathed a huge sigh of relief before he said, "We should not be so close to one another, especially not in front of Emma." "Emma is already fast asleep," Mia laughed before she continued, "Moreover, I just wanted to come over to thank you for what happened just now. You're the one who saved me again.